everybody to the February 2024 meeting of the Metropolitan Washington Old Time Radio Club. I'm delighted to see so many people signed on tonight. I think we have a really fun program, so we will get started without much ado. Are there any people who've never been to one of our meetings before? If you can sort of wave or blink your screen or something.
Robert Garrison here. This is my first time.
Welcome, Robert. And how did you find us?
Well, I heard about Larry's presentation tonight via the Old Time Radio Researchers Facebook page, and I'm here in Washington State, not DC, and I'm also a paying member of both Spurred Back and Reps, radio enthusiast of Puget Sound and everything, and I'm only 40 years old, but I've been in the hobby since I was 11. So
wow,
that is
terrific. I really enjoy the hobby, and I'm glad to be here. And
well, we're glad you're here, and I hope this will be the first of many visits that you pay us. So it is lovely, and yes, and I see John Reiser. I haven't seen you in a few months, John. Welcome, greetings, and
we're all caught up with the finances.
yes, Joni told me she went and she had to rip those receipts out of your hands. So I'm glad we're caught up. That way our treasurer's report will really be up to date tonight. So we should probably get started. I think we have a certain amount of content to cover tonight. So I will make Frank a co-host rather, and that way he can present the first 15, and he's also going to be sort of part of Larry's tech crew for his presentation. So take it away, Frank.
Okay, thank you.
And everybody else, please mute if you're not actually talking.
All right, so let's get to share screen.
Not you, Frank. Don't mute if you're giving the presentation.
And all right, let's see. I'm looking for. Okay. Now, what I want to find is share audio before we get going here. Why?
Frank, you had to do that on the same screen that you said share.
Yeah, that's up at the top now.
Oh, they moved it again, huh?
Oh, they keep changing.
It moved. Oh, let me see here. Share sound. Here we go. All right. Okay. And tonight we're going to look at the amazing interplanetary adventures of Flash Gordon. Now, on January 7th, 1929, Buck Rogers in the 25th century first appeared as a daily comic strip. On November 7th of 1932, Buck Rogers in the 25th century became a 15-minute radio serial. And what's on the screen is a sample of what Buck Rogers looked like in the Sunday paper. Now, seeing the success of Buck Rogers, in late 1933, King Features Syndicate, a unit of Hearst Holdings, asked staff cartoonist Alex Raymond to create a Sunday comic page for the Hearst newspapers that would compete with the successful Buck Rogers. And so Raymond created the character Flash Gordon. Now, this is a picture of the first panels that were produced by Raymond. I couldn't enlarge them much more without having them break up a little bit, but you can see in the first panel, Raymond was working alongside of ghostwriter Don Moore, and he crafted the strip and introduced Flash Gordon to readers of the Sunday comics on January 7th before, which ironically was exactly 5 years to the day that Buck Rogers was introduced. Now, if you look at that first upper left-hand panel, you'll see the words "world comes to an end." And then this is followed by "strange new planet rushing toward Earth. Only a miracle can save us," says science. Oh, I'm sorry, that's right below the "world coming to an end." Now, Yale grad and world-class polo player Flash Gordon is on an airplane that's struck by a meteor. And he and fellow passenger, the lovely Dale Arden, parachute from the plane and land in the yard of reclusive scientist Hans Zarkov. And you can see in the third row panel there's Flash and Dale parachuting out. And then to the right of that, they land in the yard of Dr. Zarkov, who comes at them with a pistol in his hand. Well, Zarkov forces Flash and Dale to accompany him on his homemade rocket ship, and you'll see that that takes off in the bottom panel, and they're going to go to the planet that is threatening Earth. Now, here's a presentation or a picture I found that represents Mongo, and if you follow the story, you'll see that there's Arborea, where there was one princess from, the Hawkmen, and the Lion Men, Phrygia, which on the is Phrygia obviously is for the cold area. So it's a presentation of some of the areas that someone envisioned as being Mongo. Now, with the success of the comic strip, Hearst was ready to take the next step. It wanted to create a radio program to promote Hearst's 32-page weekly comic supplement. With Flash Gordon, the idea was to have the radio program coincide with the comic strip. So on April 27th of 1935, The Amazing Interplanetary Adventures of Flash Gordon debuted on radio, and it was heard on the West Coast. From September 1935 to February 1936, Flash was heard on weekdays on the East Coast. They started it later, and there was a different cast. They used a New York cast, and unfortunately, there's not a lot of definitive information available as to who were the cast members in the New York version. Now, the lead of Flash was played by a 29-year-old Gale Gordon, and old-time radio fans probably best remember him for his years as Osgood Conklin, principal of Madison High School, and Armis Brooks. There's also several characters on Fibber McGee and Molly, most memorably Mayor La Trivia, and he was George's boss, Mr. Atterbury, on Lucille Ball's program, My Favorite Husband. And here's a picture of Gordon that most people will better remember him rather than the youthful one that preceded this. Now, Dr. Zarkov was played by Maurice Franklin. Franklin was a veteran actor, having appeared on Broadway as early as 1906. On old-time radio, Franklin spent years as the narrator on Mr. District Attorney. He was the judge on famous jury trials, and other programs on which he appeared were Jane Arden, The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, This Is Our Enemy, Her Honor Nancy James, and multiple episodes of Cavalcade of America. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to find, and I looked a lot of places to find a picture of Mr. Franklin. The Emperor Ming was played by Bruno Wick, and like many other New York actors, Wick combined his time on Broadway with work on radio. Wick played Mr. Fowler, the handyman on radio's long-running The Goldbergs, and he also appeared on episodes of Quiet Please. Now, also in the cast, according to the big broadcast of Buxton and Owen, were Teddy Bergman, who we better know as Alan Reed, Everett Sloan, Charlie Cantor, and Ray Collins. They were supporting cast. Unfortunately, Buxton and Owen, and nowhere else was I able to find who played Dale Arden. So unfortunately, it seems that she is lost to history, her name. The show's producer was a 24-year-old Hyman Brown. Brown would go on to produce more than 30,000 radio programs and was awarded a Peabody and election to the National Radio Hall of Fame for his work on radio. Now, the final episode of the 26-week run of the program was heard on October 26th of 1935. Now, Flash, Dale, and Zarkov return to Earth, but they land in the jungle where they encounter the character Jungle Jim. Jungle Jim performs the marriage ceremony for Flash and Dale. Now, the serial Jungle Jim took over Flash Gordon's time slot, but I think it's also interesting to note that Jungle Jim was also inked by Alex Raymond and shared the page on the Hearst Sunday comic insert with Flash Gordon. But Flash wasn't finished quite. 2 days after the amazing interplanetary adventures of Flash Gordon ended, the further interplanetary adventures of Flash Gordon came to the air for 60 episodes. So now, episode 8 from July 20th of 1935, I chose this episode for 2 reasons. One, because the audio was in pretty decent shape, and secondly, because Flash is recovering from amnesia, and there's a little bit of a recap as to what has preceded. So from July 20th, 1935, here is Flash Gordon.
Presenting the amazing interplanetary adventures of Flash Gordon. Last week, Dr. Zarkov, after freeing Dale and Khan, captured the cooks and guards in the kitchens of Queen Azura, and also took prisoner Tall, her chief magician. From Tall, Zarkov learned that Flash was being drugged by lithium in his wine. When Azura called for more wine, Dale warned Flash that his wine was drugged. Flash, his suspicions aroused, asked Azura to drink his potion, and when she refused, he forced her to swallow the drugged wine which had been served to him. Immediately, the wicked witch queen lost her memory and was unable to remember who she was. In the meantime, Zarkov had learned from Tall what chemical would serve as an antidote for the lithium. He hurried to Flash with a prescribed amount, which, unless Flash had been drugged for too long a time, ought to bring back his memory. And both Zarkov and Dale urged Flash to drink the lithium antidote and see what effect it would have. These thrilling adventures come to you as they are pictured each Sunday in the big full-page Comic Weekly, the world's greatest pictorial supplement of humor and adventure. The big full-page Comic Weekly, each page printed in full colors, is distributed everywhere as an integral part of your Hearst Sunday newspaper. Now we continue the story. Flash is standing with the cup of lithium antidote raised to his lips. He is undecided as to whether or not he should drink it. Dale again urges him to...
Drink it, Flash, darling.
Yes, quickly, my lad, drink. Very well. I'm Dale, my sweetheart.
Yes, Flash.
And Zarkov, my friend, now and always, son.
He remembers Dr. Zarkov.
Yes, Dale.
He didn't have too much lithium.
I remember. Lithium? What are you talking about? Why, where are we? How did we get here?
We are in the palace of Azura, queen of the blue magic men. You and Dale were captured while reconnoitering. Then Azura kept you drugged with lithium, so you would not remember any of the past.
Good heavens. How long was I like that?
For weeks. So long that we were afraid that the lithium antidote you just drank might have no power to bring back your memory.
Sounds as though you were telling me about some other fellow. And I really didn't recognize you, either of you.
No. You called me girl.
I didn't, Dale.
And when I came from Vultan's kingdom to rescue you, you threw some kind of paralyzing bomb at me and took me prisoner.
You must have thought I was either crazy or a turned traitor, Dr. Zarkov.
Well, to tell you the truth, I was worried about you, lad.
Well, I'm all right now, thanks to you.
And Dale.
Well, that goes without saying. You know that I'm grateful to you for sticking by me, don't you, darling?
Of course, Flash.
Well, old friend, what's to be done now?
While you were still under the influence of the lithium, you forced the queen to drink some of it also. Now she is in the same state you were.
Oh, I say, that's awful. What can we do about it?
Awful? You do not understand, my boy. That is good. With Azura drugged, we can take command of the whole kingdom.
But I have my own kingdom yet to conquer. What do I want with this one?
You must take everything in your stride, Flash. You conquered the cavemen and the lizard men, remember? Now you must subdue these blue magic men.
Very well. I'll proclaim myself king, but I'll let this witch queen run the land for me. What's her name?
Don't you remember, Flash?
No, remember? Why, I've never heard it.
Her name is Azura.
Azura. Where is she?
In there, through that curtained arch.
I'll just go in and tell her how things stand. I'll be right back.
Hurry back, Flash.
I will.
Who is it? Oh, who are you, fair-haired youth?
You don't remember me, eh?
I never saw you before in my life. And as for remembering, I cannot even remember who I am. Oh, what shall I do?
Listen to me. I'll tell you who you are. You're Azura.
Azura. That's a pretty name. Who are you?
I'm Flash Gordon.
Flash? Flash Gordon. You are very handsome, Flash Gordon.
Don't try to get personal, Azura.
You are rude as well as handsome.
Never mind that. I'm here on business.
Business? What do you mean?
I'm king here.
Oh, forgive me, Your Majesty. I did not know.
That's all right, Azura. I'm your king, but you are going to rule this land.
I, Your Majesty?
Yes, under my orders.
You honor me, Your Majesty. What does my king wish me to do?
First, call out the entire army so that I may review it.
At once, Your Majesty. Oh, God.
Your Majesty.
Summon the entire army to cut and review before King Flash.
Can I review my troops from that balcony yonder, Azura?
I'll see, Your Majesty. Oh, yes, Your Majesty. You can review them from here.
Good. I'll be right there in a moment. Zarkov,
Yes, Flash. What is it?
I've told Azura who I am and that she is to obey my orders. She has just sent word for her entire army to pass in review before me.
Good. That will give us a fine idea of the forces under your command.
Go in there and keep an eye on that woman. I don't trust her.
At once, Flash.
Well, Flash, now that you've got an army to take your interest, I guess you don't need me.
Eh? What's that?
I said you don't need me now that you've got an army to take your interest.
Why, that's not true, Dale. Armies, kingdoms, they mean nothing to me as far as you're concerned.
Are you sure, Flash?
Why, of course I am. Why do you think I'm conquering this kingdom? For you, sweetheart.
For me?
Certainly. Have you forgotten that I love you, Dale?
I thought you had forgotten.
Dale, how can you say that?
You called me girl and treated me as a slave in front of Azura.
I couldn't help that. Dale, I didn't beat you or hurt you, did I?
No. I must admit you tried your best to protect me from the wicked queen's punishment.
Oh, thank heaven. I was afraid I might have hurt you.
Oh, you hurt me, all right.
What?
Every time I saw you with her, you hurt me terribly.
Come now. What could make you jealous, Dale?
The way you acted.
The way I acted? Well, how did I act?
You kissed her hands and told her you loved her and would die for her. And lots more.
I did?
Yes.
Well, I don't remember it.
Flash, are you accusing me of lying?
Of course not, sweetheart. I only said I don't remember it. I was drugged. You heard Zarkov tell me I was.
Yes, I know. And I was the one who gave it to you.
You gave it to me. And yet you blame me for what I did while under its influence?
Oh, I didn't know I was giving it to you.
You didn't know that?
Not until we captured Paul and made him tell us how you were being drugged.
Tal? Who's Tal?
Azura's chief magician.
Oh. Well, let's all forget what happened in those days of darkness. I have.
I wish I could, Flash.
You can, and you must, dearest. If you don't, things can never be the same for us.
I can't quite forgive the way you acted about that woman.
Now, don't be like that, Dale. I didn't love her, no matter what I said. She tricked me.
Flash, Dale, the army is ready to be reviewed. Come.
Coming, Zarkov? Let's not talk like this anymore, Dale. Too near quarreling. I don't like it.
Neither do I, but...
Come, Dale. Let's go and inspect the army.
They're all lined up, Flash. I'm waiting for the order to pass in review.
Give the order, Azura.
At once, Your Majesty. Salute your ruler, King Flash. Is this your queen, Your Majesty?
Yes, that is, she will be soon.
She is very beautiful.
Look, Flash, the first legion is wheeling and stopping this way.
What is the name of this legion?
I do not know. God, tell His Majesty what legion this is.
The advance guard, Your Majesty. Oh, what a splendid company. And those coming next, what are they? Light magic artillery, Your Majesty. But what are those tremendous objects being pulled by the next legion?
I do not know what you call them, but I do know that they are depth to hot.
Those are the combustion ray machines. They eject flames, Your Majesty. And this company? Stone Formation Legion, Your Majesty. And the ones with cloaks? The Invisibility Legion, Your Majesty. And the Peculiar Shield? The Transparent Wall Legion, Your Majesty. And those machines coming now? The Salvo Gun Legion, Your Majesty.
And still they come, region after region.
Wonderful. I have never seen such an army.
Well, guard, have you forgotten the regulations requiring you to salute a general?
I'm sorry, General Tall.
Sorry.
Sir, you'd better wait a little while before going up there.
Wait, why? Wait for what?
The enemy on the balcony with Queen Azura. They're reviewing the troops.
Reviewing the troops, are they? What right have they to be doing that?
The Queen herself gave the order, General.
Oh, she did, eh? Why didn't somebody send for me? She wouldn't have let the enemy have this chance to size up our army if I'd been here.
It was all done so quickly, General. None of us had time to do anything.
Indeed. Well, they can't get away with it. I'll fix them. They're all on the balcony, you say?
Yes, General.
Yes, in what order are they standing on the balcony?
I'll see.
Well,
He whom they call King Flash, standing in the very center, behind the royal insignia.
and the queen?
He's at his left.
It's the old man with the beard and the girl.
Yes, they're standing at the right of him.
And Flash Gordon is standing directly in the center, eh? And I can do it. By Tau, I can do it.
What, General?
Get the Queen and Blue Magic Land from the hands of these ex-prisoners.
How will you do it, General?
You stand here. See that no one gets behind me. I'll go up these stairs, drive this sword through Flash's back, and in the confusion, run down this way and call the guard.
Hope you succeed, General Call. Good luck.
Hold your tongue. Just see to it that I'm not cut off when I start to run back this way.
Flash, behind you, look out!
Death to the invader!
Why, you? Have me in the back, will you? Never. You.
My sword!
And now, whoever you are, over the side of the balcony you go. Come here.
That was Paul. You may have killed him.
He seems to be moving down there. Guard, see that he's carried away and his wounds dressed.
No, Flash, you are making a mistake. Kill him or lock him up. I warn you, he is a troublemaker.
Is Saul dead, or will he recover and continue plotting to free his Queen Azura and keep the Blue Magic Land from being ruled by Flash Gordon? See for yourself in full-color action pictures these amazing adventures next Sunday in the big full-page comic weekly, which is distributed with your Hearst Sunday newspaper. Besides Flash Gordon, you will want to see many other pictures of fun and adventure, which are brought to you exclusively each Sunday by the Comic Weekly. Bringing up Father, the Katzenjammer Kids, Toots and Casper, the Little King, Skippy, and many, many others. The Comic Weekly entertains as no other picture magazine because the Comic Weekly brings to you exclusively the work of the world's foremost artists in humor and adventure. So be sure to get the big full-page Comic Weekly next Sunday with your Hearst Sunday newspaper. And don't forget our date next week for another episode in the amazing interplanetary adventures of Flash Gordon.
Okay, so that's the interplanetary adventures of the amazing interplanetary adventures of Flash Gordon. Just one quick comment on Alex Raymond. He was a staff artist working for King Features, and Flash Gordon was the first comic strip then on which he was placed his signature, which is quite an honor for the cartoonist to do. So anybody have any questions about Flash Gordon?
I have one.
Yeah,
Did you say that you didn't know the actress who played Dale Arden?
correct.
I have a name that it could possibly be the person. The name is Adele Ronson. Adelleronson.
I think she was on Buck Rogers.
Oh, it could have been, but maybe maybe she played the other one. Maybe that's not Flash Gordon.
Because I remember Jack
That name just
Constant
came.
did a presentation some time ago, and he kind of intimated that he had a thing for her. And I
Oh,
remember
okay.
the name.
You're right. Now that you mention it, I think it was Buck Rogers. The name just came to mind when I heard him mention that.
Well,
Frank, I have a question for you.
Yeah, John.
What does this program and the Lone Ranger have in common?
Well, I think I heard the music there at the end was from the William Tell Overture.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Yeah,
Rossini, yes.
that was the storm scene from William Tell. Well, my first, I sent a little note to you a couple of months ago, or about 6 weeks ago, that the Washington Post is now carrying the strip on Flash Gordon. I haven't been following it, but when I was about 10 years old, I went to the Universal 13-episode serial of Flash Gordon. And of course, they used the Franz Liszt Le Prelude as the theme for the taking off of the rocket. And I became enamored by that particular music. And I would go to the theater just to hear the theme of that music. And I finally saved enough money to buy the RCA Red Seal records of the Philadelphia Orchestra playing Liszt Le Prelude. And I didn't have a photograph, but I'd go around to neighbor's house and the people that did have a photograph, and I could play my two 12-inch records of Liszt Le Prelude. And that was my experience with Flash Gordon. But the interesting thing is, I went every week regularly for the 13 weeks to see that Universal strip. And a couple of years ago, I think it was on YouTube, I found where I could view that entire Universal series of Flash Gordon. And what a thrill it was going back 75 years to see that film, that old series. And I wonder if anyone else in our club remembers seeing the episodes of Flash Gordon on the Universal serialized version played in theaters in the 1940s.
That's a wonderful reminiscence, John. Thank you for that. And Frank, thank you for your work on bringing yet another wonderful first 15 to the club. Now, if nobody else has questions, we can, I'm sure we're dying to hear Sally lead us through our paces with the quiz. So if you are so disposed, Sally, I will make you a co-host so that you can.
Always ready to have power, Wendy.
Well, now you have the keys to the kingdom. Use them wisely. With great power comes great responsibility.
I make no promises. This week we have been teaching the children about the the events that have led to the American Revolution, and it has been a great pleasure to reenact being Parliament, in which I have been taxing them throughout the week for various products because paper is very expensive. And
Yep.
we must learn about the stamp tax. And we must learn
Let's
that
do the sound.
if you want to sharpen a pencil, why, there's a tax for that now. And I have collected all sorts of taxes all week. And I hope that this little interlude has given my class now enough time to prepare their materials, because I do not abide a class that does not have their materials ready. I see Wendy is ready. Very nice. Oh, very good, Jody. Thank you. Excellent, John. Thank you. Thank you. Do I see the, oh, good. Linnell is ready to go. Excellent, John. Very good. This class is ready
For you.
for a quiz.
I'll put the
Now,
rest.
I am going to, if I can figure out where they've moved the new buttons on, because boy, they really have moved everything every single time. I am going to launch the poll, which you may select faster than I will read the questions. I will attempt to read the questions 2 times, and then we will hold going over the answers until after the main program. Are you ready, class? If you're not ready, you may be taxed. Launching poll.
Okay.
Maybe if he brings it up.
Thank you. This is another excellent poll. Poll. It's been a long week. It's another excellent quiz from Frank entitled, oh, I know that. I know that. Okay, who is it? So, I expect excellent work from you all. You were sent the study guide, so. Yes? Okay. Number 1. This character once opined, the funny thing about Americans, all year they work, and then one day they stop work, and guess what they call it? Labor Day. Who was the character? A. Frankie Remley. B. Luigi Basco. C. Chester Riley. D. Pansy Nussbaum. This character once opined, the funny thing about Americans, all year they work, and then one day they stop work, and guess what they call it? Labor Day. Who was the character? Number 2. Which of these famous radio stars was a leap day baby? A. Dinah Shore. B. Francis Langford. C. Bud Abbott. D. Hanley Stafford. Which of these famous radio stars was a leap day baby? Number 3. The Jolly Boys on the Great Gildersleeve often enjoyed singing. Gildersleeve sang the leads, but which of the characters did the rich bass harmonies? A. Mr. Peavy. B. Chief Gates. C. Judge Hooker. D. Lloyd Munson. The Jolly Boys on the Great Gildersleeve often enjoyed singing. Gildersleeve sang the leads, but which of the characters did the bass harmonies? Number 4. Many comic strips became popular radio shows. Which of the following comic strips didn't make it to radio? A. Joe Palooka. B. The Phantom. C. Lil Abner. D. The Sad Sack. Many comic strips became popular radio shows. Which of the following didn't make it to radio? Sad Sack. Number 5. 3 actresses played the part of Miss Duffy on Duffy's Tavern. Which of the following did not? A. Shirley Booth. B. Lawrence Halleck. C. Eve McVeigh. D. Hazel Shermitt. 3 actresses played the part of Miss Duffy on Duffy's Tavern. Which did not? Number 6. Roy Glenn portrayed Sidney Poitier's father in the movie Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? But on radio, he frequently brought his unmistakable voice to visit a close friend. Who was that friend? A. Bertie Lee Coggins. B. Rochester Van Jones. C. Amos Jones.
Yes.
D. Beulah Brown. Roy Glenn
It's your computer.
frequently brought his unmistakable voice on radio to visit a close friend. Who
Oh, we'll wait for you. Don't
was
worry.
it?
Okay. No, we'll work through it. Bye.
Number 7. 3 sets of actors played John and Blanche Bickerson. Which of the following pairs didn't play the parts? A. Don Amici and Francis Langford. B. Lou Parker and Francis Langford. C. Don Amici and Marcia Hunt. D. Lou Parker and Marcia Hunt. 3 sets of actors played John and Blanche Bickerson, which didn't play the parts? Number 8. Tarzan was king of the jungle. He had several incarnations on the radio beginning in the 1930s. Who played Tarzan in the last radio series in the 1950s? A. Lamont Johnson. B. Buster Crabby. Buster. Who knows how he feels? Maybe he's happy. C. Ron Eli. D. Jeff Chandler. Who played Tarzan in the last radio series in the 1950s? Number 9. Julius LaRosa was not only the only victim of Arthur Godfrey's ire, he also fired which of his popular female vocalists? A. Carmel Quinn. B. Jeanette Davis. C. A beautiful Hawaiian name that I will likely butcher in this voice. Haleloke Kahalalalupoe. D. Marion Marlowe. Who did Arthur Godfrey fire? Number 10. Which of these musicians was a leap year baby? A. Harry Von Zell. B. Harry Sosnick. C. Meredith Wilson. D. Jimmy Dorsey. Which of these musicians was a leap year baby? Well, I hope you studied the study guide, because if you didn't, there will be no grading on the curve.
Thank you, Miss Stevens.
You're welcome. Now, I will leave the poll running in the background. We'll end it after the main program. So, if you want to answer it that way, there will be time for you to do so.
Well, that was wonderful, especially the singers on question number 9. Thank you, Sally. So moving right along, Frank has an introduction for our speaker tonight. So Frank, take it away. And we can learn a little more about Larry.
Okay, what we have to do first is to see whether he's back. The phone call that I got, and I'm sorry for the interruption, was Larry calling to say that his screen had frozen.
Oh dear.
So that he signed off and is going to sign back on. So I apologize for that, but I'm glad I took the call. But in the meantime, while he's doing that, I can do his introduction. He doesn't have to hear it. All right. So our guest tonight is Larry Zdeb. Larry comes to us from Columbus, Ohio, where he lives with his wife of 50+ years, Pat. They have 2 sons and twin grandchildren, age 13, a boy and a girl. Larry served in the Air Force during the Vietnam War and was stationed in Saigon in a top secret military intelligence unit. After his service, Larry completed a 2-year degree program. Larry's interest in old-time radio began in the late 1970s as he was listening to rebroadcasts on WJR, a radio station in Detroit. As a result of hearing about the premiums that were offered to the children on these programs, Larry started a collection of those items, which is acknowledged as one of the best in the hobby today. Larry is an old-time radio historian with special expertise about the Lone Ranger and, of course, Captain Midnight. Larry credits Terry Solomonson for encouraging him 10 years ago to write a book about Captain Midnight. Larry credits also that there would be no book without the assistance of Steve Thompson and Martin Grams. You may recall that Steve spoke with us about comics that came to radio and radio shows that went to the comics a few months ago. And of course, we all know about Martin and his contributions to the history and preservation of old-time radio. Larry has assisted Martin and Terry in their work of Volume 2 on the book about the history of the Lone Ranger. So we may have to wait a second or two because I don't see Larry on the call right now. If you want to mute me, Wendy, I'll give Larry a call and see how he's doing.
Okay, I will mute you, Frank. There we go. Well, I'm delighted to have so many people here tonight. Yes, John Reiser.
Well, I hope everyone receives their mailed copies of Radio Recall, but I wanted to thank Sally for the wonderful, wonderful issue that she prepared. And in fact, I don't know whether you noticed, but it has increased from 12 pages to 14 pages in this current issue. So it's expanding out with more editorial material right through to the last page. So I think she certainly deserves a round of applause for a wonderful issue. And I want to thank her very much.
Well done, Sally. Yes,
Thank
it is such
you.
a relief to have someone who has taken the reins, at least for the moment. I'm not going to make an assumption here,
I appreciate
but
that.
also your work, yours and Frank's work on our Facebook page is really wonderful. And that's one reason we have a new member here tonight
Wonderful.
is because of the Facebook page. It was Robert Garrison came to
Wonderful.
us,
Yes,
and
I'm
he lives in
excited.
Washington State.
That's
So
great.
he's not next door.
Yeah.
And
Well, I do. I'll have some more updates and things about it when we get to that time in our business meeting. However, I did want to point out that I wonder if perhaps Frank was inspired by our recently returned letters from the listener section, which thankfully John Reiser did suggest that we return. And I included his email about the Flash Gordon comic strip returning. And I said to him, because I didn't know much about it, and I said, John, I don't know much about this radio program, but I'm hoping others might. And lo and behold, what did we have as our first 15? So hopefully, we can maybe have a little follow-up to it as we continue. So yeah, exciting.
yes, that is really wonderful to have that.
I have a
Thank you.
question, if it's okay,
Sure, George.
since we have a little dead spot. During the Flash Gordon, my sound was cutting out, so I didn't hear everything. But I thought he said we didn't know who played. Oh, I'm getting the two shows confused. I'm sorry. That was my fault. Sorry. The question is, I was confusing Buck Rogers with Flash Gordon, but that's
Yes, that happened a little earlier this evening too.
When I-
You're in good
yes.
company, George.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Wendy,
Yes.
this is Dennis. I'm sorry, but I can't go on any further unless I know Edgar's got his tie on.
Edgar, would you turn on your camera and show us your tie? Let me prompt him. Oh, there he
There we
is.
go. Okay,
Yeah,
Dennis.
show us the tie.
Uh,
Good
All is
job.
well in the world.
I'm
Yes.
glad. I'm
Edgar.
glad I could relieve your anxiety.
The world makes sense again. Thank you,
And
Edgar.
happy soon-to-be Valentine's Day to everybody.
Ah, right back at you, kid.
Thank you, Edgar.
Wendy, it might
Good.
be appropriate for me to read the
Answers.
end
Yeah,
of the
because
answers of the quiz.
I don't know. Well, let's see. Frank is presumably on the phone with Larry right now. So they had anticipated that, sometimes their internet freezes. So he had a plan B, but it doesn't seem to be working. So we will wait to hear from Frank. And yes, I think that would be an excellent use of time, Miss Stevens, if you would be willing to go through the answers with us.
You're
It's a little
nothing
out of
not
order, but
adaptable in the classroom.
yeah, we try to be flexible here.
Also, this gives plenty of time for you to not change your answers.
Right. Exactly. You have to go with your first instinct.
Right, that's right.
For better or for worse.
And it looks like plenty of people have participated on the poll. So really, I mean,
Okay, I think I'm back on.
look at that.
Oh, here,
See?
Larry is back. Well, his chair is back.
Still don't change your answers, kids.
Yeah. Remember, Miss Steve, you don't want to arouse Miss Stevens' ire. All right, welcome back, Larry.
I had computer problems.
Yeah, it happens. So Frank, you're mute right now.
We're good.
Oh, there you are.
Larry, I did the introduction of you so that if you're ready, I'm going to put on the screen the first
slide.
Okay.
Slide, and we'll get started.
Okay, well, right now I've got the questions on the screen. I got a black, okay, there I go.
Okay.
Book number 1 should be the first picture.
All right, well, this first one is just the one that I did introducing you.
Okay.
So, all right. And here we go. Here's your slide number 1, Larry.
Share
Frank,
screen.
slide number 1.
Can you share your screen, Frank?
Oh, did not Jesus. I'm sorry.
No.
Now I got to figure. All right, give me a minute here. Thank you for reminding me. We'll get there.
Well, the group might
I was
get a little
playing around with
technical.
this, so maybe if I just don't touch it.
All right, let share screen. Here we go.
Excellent. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you for reminding me. All right, there we go. Now that's the introductory screen that Captain Midnight presented by Larry Zdeb. And Larry, here you go. Now can you see the opening slide.
All right. I have to tell you who I am. I'm Larry Zdeb, and I'm an award-winning artist, and I'm a radio historian. And I got into radio by collecting premiums. I also collect radio scripts, and I have a few transcriptions. I've written a book, a 2-volume set. This is book number 1. It doesn't say so on the cover, but the person who really helped the most on this is Martin Grams. If it wasn't for Martin, this book would not be published. He helped me with information I didn't know, and he knew all about getting it published through Amazon. And then he arranged to have Stephen Thompson kind of oversee everything. I always consider it like I had a dirty car and I took it to a car wash, and I put it in the car wash, and when it came out, it was nice and clean. And that's the way I kind of feel about Martin and Stephen, what they did for my book. And the book is available on Amazon in hardcover and softcover. And next picture. This is book number 2. These things are huge books. These are about the size of telephone books. They're very thick. You rarely find such a comprehensive account of a character. And this just happens to be one of the characters, and I had to write the book. Terry Solomonson came by my house once, and I showed him what I had, and when he saw what I had, he just said, "You've got to write a book. You've got so much stuff that no one else has." And Martin checked with the Library of Congress, and they didn't have anything. So I had to write the book. I'm the only one who has the information. And the reason I have the information is the next picture. Go to the next picture. Ovaltine had a plant where they took their archives and they put them on pallets because some higher up decided that they're going to throw away the archives. So they put them on pallets, and they told the employees to take what they wanted, and anything that wasn't taken after a week, they'd take to the landfill. So luckily, some of these employees took these scripts, and they saved approximately 76% of all the Captain Midnight scripts, and there were 1,851 of them. So I probably have read over 1,400 scripts. This might not be all the ones you see in this picture, but they put them into folders, and they're basically untouched scripts. And there's more there than what was heard on the radio because these are unedited scripts. Next picture. The scripts were written by, this is Robert Burt. And he had a writing partner. The next picture. Wilfred Moore. Now, and they both wrote, the first time I encountered them was when they wrote for Jimmy Allen. Wilfred Moore, unfortunately, died in 1939, just after they started with Captain Midnight. So he really didn't write too much about Captain Midnight, but he wrote a lot about Jimmy Allen, which we'll go to the next picture. They wrote, Jimmy Allen was a show through most of the 1930s. A very popular show, and it was sponsored by a lot of companies. Oil companies, Skelly, but Richfield, mostly gasoline companies, but it had a lot of sponsors. And that's Jimmy Allen in the lower center picture. Next picture. This is that photograph of his Jimmy Allen's airplane. And when I looked at this picture, I found something very curious about it. This is Jimmy Allen flying the plane, but go to the next picture. It looked like Captain Midnight in the back seat. And so, I don't know, maybe they were hinting around that they were going to start a new show, but I felt that the reason that they wanted to leave Jimmy Allen and go to Captain Midnight was because the Jimmy Allen show was basically a story of about a young boy who was an aviator. And I think that perhaps Robert Burt and Wilfred Moore decided they wanted more of an adult hero. And so Jimmy Allen kind of faded out, and the company, they decided to write a show with more of an adult hero, which became Captain Midnight. Go to the next picture. They had a sponsor. It was Skelly Oil Company, and the show ran from 1938 to 1940. And only about half of the Skelly gas stations, I estimated there's 3,600 stations, but only about half of them really decided that they wanted to be part of this Captain Midnight show. And I think the reason that a gas station might not have decided to do it was because they didn't want kids coming to the gas station asking for the latest premium when their hands are all dirty when they're changing the oil on a car. So I felt that a lot of gas stations just didn't want to have the trouble of kids coming to the gas station to pick up their premiums, because that's how you got the premium. If you wanted a badge or a letter or a picture, you had to go to the gas station and you had to show them your membership card, and then the gas station operator would give you the premium. And the Skelly Oil Company was a Midwestern gasoline company, just like the center of the United States, all the way from like Chicago down to Texas and over to Colorado. But there was it didn't go out east or the far east or the far west, not even in Michigan, where I'm from. Next picture. So they picked Ed Prentice to be Captain Midnight. And this is a picture of Ed as a character, Ned Holden from Guiding Light. But it's a good picture of Ed Prentice. He was the Captain Midnight for the very first season. When season 1 ended, Ed Prentice felt that, well, he was Captain Midnight. He didn't have to apply to be Captain Midnight for the second season, but he was wrong. So go to the next picture. They picked Bill Boucher to be Captain Midnight for the 1939-1940 season. Next picture. The Skelly Oil Company had an in-house newspaper that there's about 8 issues that had a Captain Midnight theme, and this is just the example of one of them. This newspaper was never meant to be seen by the public. It only went to gas stations. Next picture. Now, Captain Midnight did have a newspaper for the children that they had to pick up at the gas station. And the reason that they really started this newspaper is because they wanted the kids to keep in touch with Captain Midnight during the summer season when the show was off the air. But after a couple years, I felt that it was just the gas stations felt that it was just too much trouble to be taking care of these little kids. But so what they tried to do is go to the next picture. What they did was, instead of having the gas station owner take care of the children, what Skelly came up with, they thought that if they offered an incentive to a kid, they could get that kid to work at the gas station and do all the handling of the children coming and asking for their premiums. So what they did for each gas station, they offered the gas station owner he had to pick one kid to be the person who would take care of all the applications and kids coming in asking for pictures. So the kid's incentive was this badge. So only one kid in this area where this gas station was at received this badge. So it's the rarest Captain Midnight badge. I estimate there's probably only about 10 of them in existence. Next picture. So Ovaltine decided that they would pick up this show, and they decided to have a new the new Captain Midnight, which was like a continuation of the Skelly shows with all the same characters. Next picture. They picked the first Captain Midnight, Ed Prentice, to be the new Captain Midnight. And there's Ed Prentice. Next picture. Joyce was played by Mary Lou Neunemeyer, and she was actually the only person on the show who could actually fly a plane. And here she is in a flight suit, and she actually soloed, and she played Joyce on Captain Midnight. Next picture. Billy Rose played Chuck. Next picture. Boris Aplon played the bad guy Ivan Shark. But Boris really wasn't that. He started out as being the bad guy, but then he mysteriously left the show for a few years. And the reason why was he was drafted, or he joined the army. He joined the army, and so here he was, the bad guy on Captain Midnight, but he was really a good guy in real life. He was over in Europe in World War II. So he was off the show until about 1946, so they had to have other characters to be the bad guy. But he came back later. Next picture. And the announcer for Captain Midnight for the majority of the show was the famous Pierre Andre. Next picture. The first Captain Midnight Premium was fittingly an American flag pin. He was such an American hero. This was a good one to be the first premium. Next picture. Almost every year, Captain Midnight issued a new manual with a decoder, and that was the highlight of the show. These shows, a lot of them ended with a series of numbers, which you had to use the decoder to turn into letters, and that's what really drew the kids. It made the show different than almost every other show because there were so many secret codes, and every kid didn't want to be left out. So this is what they received. They received a manual, and they received a decoder. There was a manual in 41, 42, 45, 46, 47, 48, and 49. Each one had a different decoder. Next picture. Captain Midnight was such a popular radio show that it became a serial, Columbia serial with Captain Midnight. And here's a press book of Captain Midnight from my collection. Next picture. The stars of Captain Midnight were Dave O'Brien, who played Captain Midnight, and Dorothy Short. In real life, they were married, but they're also known for another movie they were in, and it may be surprising, but go to the next picture. They were in the cult classic Reefer Madness, where they played youthful marijuana victims with drug-crazed abandon. Next picture. The Captain Midnight became a newspaper strip, and they had dailies. So that ran for almost every day from 1942 to 1945, because Monday through Saturday would be a daily, and then on Sunday there'd be a Sunday like you see here. So that was a long-running comic strip. Next picture. It also became a comic book, and this is like the introduction of the Captain Midnight #1. There's Captain Marvel. He's introducing Captain Midnight as the new comic book. This comic book lasted from 42 to 48. Next picture. Here's a cast picture from 1943. You notice that Boris Aplon is not here because he's in the army, and Jack Bivens is now Chuck. He's at the lower left-hand side. Next picture. Mary Lou Neunemeyer left the show in 1946 because she married a doctor. and she left the show. And so they needed a new Joyce. So they got Angeline Hedrick Orr to be the new Joyce. She's a very interesting character. She was, when she started the show, she was 34 years old, and she was playing a teenager. She married a man named Johnny Neblett in 1945, and unfortunately, Johnny was killed in a plane crash the next year in 1946. So the Joyce, the teenager Joyce that people heard on the Captain Midnight show was really a widow who was in her 30s. She later married another famous person. She married Jimmy Dudley, who was considered the voice of the Cleveland Indians. He was a broadcaster. Next picture. My favorite episode of all of the episodes was this, it was called The Man Behind the Mask. Ivan Shark now, he's back. So what happened was Captain Midnight was following Ivan Shark to this country in Tibet called Marchula. And he met with who was called the Shatan, Shahtan. And he was the ruler of the country, but he had a curious habit of always wearing a mask. So his subjects could not look upon his face. Captain Midnight met the ruler, and the ruler, Captain Midnight told the ruler that there's this bad guy in his country that is trying to take over the country. And so the ruler suggested, okay, come to my palace tonight, and I'll talk to you about it. So Captain Midnight was going to go to the palace and meet with the Shatan. In the meantime, Captain Midnight was staying at this house. And in the meantime, Ivan Shark, with the help of the council, of the Shatan's council, who did not like the Shatan, they wanted him removed because they felt that Ivan Shark promised that they would be a more prosperous and powerful country if he took over. So they arranged to have the Shatan removed. So they had to, Ivan Shark went to the chamber and he hid in there because he said he could not take over as the Shatan until he heard the Shatan's voice. So he hid in there and he heard the Shatan talking and he said, okay, I've heard enough. And so he went to another place. And then when the Shatan pulled the curtain away, Ivan Shark stabbed him in the chest and killed him. So what did Ivan Shark do? He put the mask on and he became the Shatan. So you could imagine the plot implications when Captain Midnight now goes to meet the person he thinks is the Shatan, but it's really his arch enemy, Ivan Shark. And if you read my book, you'll find out what happened. Go to the next picture. One of the most popular premiums they had, they tried to sell a lot of these, but they didn't sell out, but it was pretty popular. Most people remember a shake-up mug. And this was a ploy by Ovaltine to try to get the kids to drink more of their product. So if they could get the kids to mix up an Ovaltine shake-up, they'd sell more Ovaltine. Next picture. Another famous premium was the Spy Scope. And this was a pretty interesting episode. The reason that they did these premiums because it had something to do with the story. Ivan Shark again, this is later on, now this is a year later. Ivan Shark is back, and he discovered an inventor who invented a gas that would render everything unconscious for 2 hours within a quarter-mile distance. So his idea was to take over a town by releasing the gas. Now, there was an antidote. So he could have all of his gangsters take the antidote, they could release the gas, and they'd be the only one conscious. They could walk into banks, and they could steal anything they wanted. So Captain Midnight had to invent something that they could watch what he was doing from a distance. So that's the reason they invented the Spy Scope, to watch Ivan Shark plunder the town. And because they couldn't get close. And what would happen is, after 2 hours, if Shark wanted to continue, he'd just release more gas. and he could keep releasing gas until he escaped. Next picture. This is the 1947 cast. You'll notice on the bottom in the center, Ivan Shark is back, and Angeline Orr is at the top as Joyce. Sharon Granger is the one on the top row, the second one from the right. She played the evil Ivan Shark's daughter, who was pictured in the manuals as having green skin and looking like the witch from The Wizard of Oz. Well, she turned out to be a gorgeous brunette in real life. Next picture. The last decoder was the 1949 decoder, and you needed a special little key to make it work. Next picture. This is kind of an overview of a lot of Captain Midnight premiums. There's television premiums mixed in there, and this is just a nice selection of premiums. They offered a lot of premiums, and this is most of them. But Ovaltine decided they were going to get away from children's shows on the radio, and television was coming in 1949, and so they decided they would go to the next show, which is in the next picture, Howdy Doody. So Ovaltine took their advertising dollars from Captain Midnight and put them into Howdy Doody. So Howdy Doody kind of was the one that kind of knocked Captain Midnight off the radio. But just being a partial sponsor of the show, there were so many sponsors on Howdy Doody that Ovaltine really didn't want to just be a partial sponsor. So they thought they would do their own show. So go to the next picture. They came up with a show called Captain Midnight's Adventure Theater. And the man you're looking at there is Vern Smith. Now, if you've ever watched the Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, he's the announcer that you hear at the beginning of the show. He's got a very distinctive voice. And he also was the announcer for the Dennis Day, the Life of Dennis Day show, A Day in the Life of Dennis Day. He was the announcer for that show. And this show was, all Captain Midnight would do in this show was arrive and do the first commercial. Then they would show cut down serials. Then he'd do the middle commercial. Then they'd show more serials. And then he would do the end commercial. He was just a Captain Midnight who was like just an advertising figure. And the show really was the scaled down serials. Go to the next picture. And the premium that he offered was a hot mug. Another premium to get the kids to drink more Ovaltine. Next picture. But that wasn't enough. They wanted to have their own show with Captain Midnight to be like the character in the whole show. So they got Richard Webb to be Captain Midnight. And this is the Captain Midnight a lot of people remember. The show lasted 39 episodes. And they also did the show, they filmed it as Captain Midnight, and they also filmed it as Jet Jackson. So sometimes when you're watching movies of this, you'll find them that they say Jet Jackson or they say Captain Midnight. Captain Midnight was used for the Ovaltine markets, and Jet Jackson was for markets that did not have Ovaltine. Next picture. This is the first manual that was on the new Captain Midnight show with There's the Decoder. And they actually did have messages on television. Not as many as the radio, though. Next picture. And this is the second and last premium, decoder premium. This was the 1957 decoder. Next picture. In 1989, Ovaltine decided that they were going to kind of revive Captain Midnight. So stores like department stores, if you were lucky enough, you would find a sign like this, and they told you how to send away for a patch, T-shirt, a watch, and these walkie-talkies. Next picture. But the very last premium from Ovaltine, this was not a Captain Midnight, but it was Ovaltine. And it was something that people always think that Captain Midnight issued, a decoder ring. And this was issued in 2000. And that would be the end of my presentation, except for any kind of questions now that anyone would have. So do I have any questions from the audience?
Just as a general question.
Yeah, I have a question.
Oh.
All right.
Go ahead, I'll go next.
Who have you called? I have a question.
Yes.
Okay. When I was, first of all, you did not mention what network or how the program was syndicated over the years, because from 1952 to 1954, I worked at a local radio station in Michigan, WATT, that carried Captain Midnight programs. And I know that it was a 15-minute program, and I don't know who the sponsor was, because we had to cut out the sponsor, and I had to play film music while the network sponsor was carried, because apparently the station was not getting the program. But it was Mutual at that time.
Yes.
Now, was the program from I worked at the station from 1952 to 1954, and during that period, sometime we were carrying Captain Midnight, and you didn't mention that time period. So I would like to know if you have any information about that time period.
Well, if it was a 15-minute show, it would have had to have been the radio show, which would have ended in 49.
Yeah.
Are you sure? You sure it wasn't the half hour? It was. You're saying it was in the 50s?
I think it was 52 to 54, and it was a 15-minute show.
Well, if it was a television show, it might have been the Captain Midnight Adventure Theater.
No.
Hmm.
It was radio. Mutual. It was on Mutual.
Perhaps
we were a Mutual affiliate.
Perhaps they could have rerun them, but I don't have any evidence of that. I know they reran the shows during the time it was on the radio. In fact, one year in 1946, they didn't even have a summer vacation. They ran the show the whole year. And it was always a 15-minute show on the radio. Until the last season in 1949, then just for about 30 shows or so, it became a half an hour show, but they canceled it. So it was a half an hour show for a very short period.
Thank you.
Okay.
Larry?
Yes.
I see that Robert Garrison had a question. Where can I find the greatest number of extant Captain Midnight episodes?
Well, I would suggest you just go to eBay and find them, but there's only about 42 episodes that are out there. That's one of the problems with the Captain Midnight. There's so few shows out there that people think they know all about the show just by listening to 42 shows. I'm talking about Ovaltine shows. Now, there are some, actually, if you count the Skelly shows, there are probably 100 shows. And you can just find them on eBay, and everyone basically has the same shows. Just a matter of who you buy them from.
Thank you.
I personally like the Ovaltine shows.
Yeah.
I have a question. First of all, I'm so appreciative that you've conserved all of those original scripts. My two questions is what would be the possibility of getting these digitalized and preserved that way and in circulation? And also, what is the standing regarding Little Orphan Annie and the other Ovaltine show and its scripts?
It's crazy. I found these people that found these scripts. First of all, there were hardly any scripts. There wasn't a single script from 1943. The shows that I have in my book are basically shows that are available online that you could buy and listen to, and there's not many. And then I happen to have a transcription disc with 2 shows on it that aren't available. But there are probably 100 shows. But as far as the Skelly shows, which are my favorite, there's only about 42 of them. So the scripts, when you read the scripts, you get a totally different picture of what you think you know about Captain Midnight.
Are you open to
as far as preserving the scripts, it would be a monumental task because each script is approximately 16 pages long, and there's probably somewhere between 1,400 and 1,500 scripts, and they're in these folders. And then each script you'd have to. Luckily, the folders, you can take the scripts out of them, and you can take each script. So you'd have to take them out of the folders and scan each page to do that. Personally, if it ever came down to me donating these, I would specify that somebody would have to do that. But I'm not sure that that's what I want to do. Now, if someone wanted
to preserve them, they're your property, the originals, but I would love to see also maybe a club out there would be a team player with you in that sense to work to have the contents preserved.
Now, my book is pretty comprehensive to find out what each episode is. I really left in all the good parts. So I think someone would really be bored if you had to read every one of these scripts. But they're not. Believe me, they're not going to go away. I'm really protective of these scripts.
The other thing that would be great is if a club could, or a group, professional group, actually recreate the shows from the scripts. I know that's a long shot, but there was one gentleman who did that with the Andes.
Well, how much? What are you talking about? 1 or 2 shows, or doing? How interested could anyone be to hear 100 of these shows? Do you think that would be of any interest?
Well, they were for many years in the 40s. People listened to them, right?
Yeah.
You know, one guy actually did it several years of the 1930s, Amos and Andes. I have some of them. I think some other people may have more, but these old shows where the scripts only exist, people can recreate them, and I've seen them not just in vintage radio, but also in missing classic TV shows also.
Yeah, a lot of the scripts are, a lot of the shows are only available in scripts. I have a lot of other scripts. I just don't have Captain Midnight, but that's the one I have the most of. I do know a lot about the Lone Ranger. I have a lot of those scripts. And I try to get a script from all the popular shows. Like I have one Shadow, and I have one Vic and Sade that's not out there. Sky King. I try to get the top shows, so I'd like to try to at least get at least one script from a top show, and I have a couple of very interesting transcriptions. I have a transcription from the half show of the Lone Ranger from 1937 before they even started recording them. So I have a half show, actually 4 half shows. Very interesting to hear a show that from 1937 when you know they didn't start recording till 38.
Have you transcribed those onto like?
They've all been saved. They've all been digitally saved. They're not. I have the transcription disc, and they've been professionally saved.
That's
Great. Edgar, you have had your hand up very patiently for quite some time.
I
Did you
know
have a question for Larry?
Yes, my digital hand is tired, but yes, thank you for a superb presentation, Larry. And I wanted to ask you, what was the most surprising thing you learned in your vast research?
I'm glad you asked that question because I was very surprised. I'm glad you asked me that question.
Me too.
The show started out where Captain Midnight, the very first show, this mysterious figure wanted to arrange this secret squadron to get this character named Ivan Shark, who was the world's most dangerous criminal. So the whole show from 1940 until 1949 was about Captain Midnight chasing Ivan Shark all around the world. And what got me about this was surprising. Captain Midnight was captured by Ivan Shark so many times, or by the Axis or Japanese soldiers. He was captured, but they always had a logical reason for not killing him on the spot. Captain Midnight, he was captured. He was on Admiral Himakito, had him captured, and he was tied up on a Japanese carrier, and he was tied up, and they were going to shoot him at dawn by a firing squad on this. This show is very violent, but what they didn't know was the Americans were going to attack that carrier. So just before, now here's Captain Midnight is going to be shot. Just before he's shot, these American planes come diving in, and they blast the carrier to Kingdom Come. Captain Midnight managed to escape by falling into the water, and finally someone comes by and saves him. That's kind of the stuff that happened. So there was always these. He was captured way more times than Ivan Shark, and yet even the times that he captured Ivan Shark always managed to escape by being too clever. To answer your question, the most interesting thing that I think happened was Captain Midnight chased Ivan Shark for 9 years, from 40 to 1949. Ivan Shark tried to kill Captain Midnight. And in the end, I've got the last episodes. I've got the very last, like the scripts for about the last 30 shows. So I know everything that happened from those shows. And there was one show where Ivan Shark was in a show. This is now the half-hour show, and this is like between September and December of 49. Ivan Shark is in one episode, and Captain Midnight goes to capture him, but he's escaped. And so Captain Midnight says to his gang, he captures the gang, but the gang says to Captain Midnight, he said, "Where's Shark?" And they said, "Well, he left us here to get captured by you guys." So Ivan Shark escaped. So I've got every script since then. And I think what happened was they canceled the show before Robert Burt had a chance to write a script for the ending. So what happened was after 9 years, there was no capturing of Ivan Shark. Ivan Shark did not get captured, which was the whole goal of the show. All these kids are watching for these 9 years thinking one of these days Ivan Shark's going to be captured for good. Well, guess what? It never happened. Ivan Shark was never captured. And the only person that bumped Captain Midnight off the air was Howdy Doody. He was more clever than Ivan Shark.
Well, thank you. And that must mean that Ivan Shark is still out there. So maybe one of our resourceful club members can find a way to capture him.
Some of my books, when I sign the books, I say, "Watch out for Ivan Shark."
Thank you, Larry. Wonderful.
Boris Aplon, by the way, who played Ivan Shark, if you watch The Honeymooners, the television show with Jackie Gleason, he's in one of them. He plays a bad guy. You can look it up. You can go to YouTube and type in The Honeymooners and perhaps type in Boris Aplon. And I've watched the episode. He plays like he plays like a gangster figure, a bad guy, but he really wasn't a super bad guy like Ivan Shark, but he was still kind of a bad guy. So if you want to see what Ivan Shark really looked like in person, in real life. Watch The Honeymooners. I think he was only in one episode.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Now, there's a phone number, and I'm not sure the name that's attached to it. 623-600-8089 has their hand up. Well, I will ask you to lower your, or to to unmute, and maybe we can hear your question. There we go.
Hi, I have a comment mostly. I remember listening to Captain Midnight and Fury. Oh my goodness, she was just so scary as I remember her. Of course, it's a long time ago. I was wondering, Larry, you were talking about the decoders. Now, when I was listening, and I listened for several years, they called the decoder a codograph.
Yes.
And every year you had to send for a new one because it was all very different.
Well, you want to know the reason why that happened? Every year, Captain Midnight, something happened where the decoder would get captured by Ivan Shark.
Oh.
And so see, Ovaltine planned it this way. Ovaltine planned it to have at the end of every year have the decoder get captured. So that way they could have an excuse for offering a new one. Like for 41, I know there was one at one time where a pilot, all the secret squadron members carried a decoder with them. And so this pilot he was a secret squadron pilot. He had to crash into the ocean. And when he crashed near Ivan Shark, and he was knocked out when he landed. So that Ivan Shark took the boat up really quickly. He landed in the water, and they got the pilot out of the plane before the plane sunk. And when they were searching his unconscious body, they find a decoder on him. And so, so it takes a while for Captain Midnight to realize that his code has been compromised. But there's little hints because he gets these messages that are kind of out of, like there's a word spelled wrong or something. And so Captain Midnight gets these ideas that the decoder and his codes have been compromised. So he has the other character I didn't mention. His name's Icky. He was the inventor on the show, and he was the mechanic. He was the guy that invented so each year he had to come up with a new decoder. And during the war years, 43 and 44, they did not issue a decoder, but kids still wanted to decode messages. And so what they did was they offered paper decoders to kids. Most people don't know about them, but they're listed in my book.
Well, thank you so much.
That is just wonderful. And does anyone have any other questions for Larry? It's such a vast topic. It's amazing. Your grasp of having all of that in your head is amazing to me.
Well, it took me 7 years to write the book, and I've read and I've had to edit it and edit it down from 16 pages to like a paragraph or so. So, and they're listed all by the numbers, and it's very comprehensive. It's the way Martin Grahams does his Lone Ranger books.
Comprehensive
I wish I had every episode, but I don't. But I have the majority of them, more than anyone ever dreamed existed. And we can thank those people that saved these from ending up in a landfill. They saved radio history.
Yes. That is wonderful. So any other questions, curiosities, musings? All right. Well, Larry, thank you so much. And thank you for persevering with the computer being ornery and uncooperative. I really appreciate you being able to do this. And Frank, thank you for making the visual part of the program possible by setting up the slideshow and operating that. It was a really wonderful kind of team effort the two of you did. And you have enhanced our knowledge, which is wonderful. So thank you, thank you.
Oh, he left.
What? All right. So now I think we're at that happy time when we ask Miss Stevens to put us out of our suspense and tell us what the real answers to the questions were.
Excellent word
and-
editing, Wendy. There is no misery in tests. No misery. We all have to take tests in life. Life is hard. Okay, here we go. Ending poll. All right, now I'm sharing the results. Can you see them?
Yes.
Okay. Now, we'll go through the answers. Just because it might be the majority selected on the poll doesn't mean it's correct. After all, if the majority said, let's go jump off a bridge, would we do it? Alex, I'm very disappointed that you nodded. Oh.
Yes.
Well, Edgar, we're going to have some remediation in this class. Number 1. This character once
He didn't ask about the. He didn't ask about the.
The funny thing about Americans is that all year they work and then one day they stop work, and guess what they call it? Labor Day. Who said that? On the poll, we were pretty evenly split between Luigi Basco and Chester Riley. The correct answer is B. B. Luigi. Is this Life with Luigi? A show I do not listen to. Number 2. I think Frank did this on purpose. Number 2. Which of these famous radio stars was a leap day baby? We clearly had no idea. We clearly did not study our leap year. Does everyone know what day the leap year is? I hope so. It's coming up. It's in this month. It's at the end of this month. It only happens once every 4 years. Oh boy, we're definitely going to have some retakes here. But the correct answer, at least a little bit of majority, did get it correct. The correct answer is A, Dinah Shore. She is a leap year baby. Was a leap year baby. Number 3. The Jolly Boys on The Great Gildersleeve often enjoyed singing. Gildersleeve sang the leads, but which of the characters sang the rich bass harmonies? Well, we were almost evenly split between Chief Gates and Judge Hooker. But a few of us thought it might be Floyd Munson. Well, the correct answer is B, Chief Gates. Chief Gates did the bass. Number 4. Many comic strips became popular shows, but which one did not make it to radio? I mean, there were lots of choices here, because how many of us had heard of these radio programs? Looks like not too many of us from the way our answers are. Was it Joe Palooka? Lil Abner? Maybe. The Phantom got a few more votes. The Sad Sack. I just love that name. I'm gonna look everything up about the Sad Sack now. Everything up about the Sad Sack. But that's not the correct answer. The correct answer is B, the Phantom. B. Number 5. 3 actresses played the part of Miss Duffy on Duffy's Tavern, but who did not? Again, were we studying, class? Did we review the study guide? We're all over the place. The majority did go for Eve McVeigh, but we had a few votes for Hazel, Florence, and Shirley. But at least the majority did win this one. C. Eve McVeigh did not play Miss Duffy. C is correct. Number 6. Roy Glenn portrayed Sidney Poitier's father on Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, but on radio, he frequently brought his unmistakable voice to visit a close friend. And who was that? Was that Bertie Lee Coggins? But we were mostly split between Rochester Van Jones or Amos Jones. Split between those two, and the correct answer is B, Rochester. Rochester. Or should I say Rochester? Number 7. 3 sets of actors played John and Blanche Bickerson. Which of the following pairs did not play the parts? I'm very glad that no one selected A, because that meant you didn't read the directions. That's right. That's what it would have meant. We were kind of split between B and D, Lou Parker and Frances Langford, so we were definitely leaning towards Lou and somebody. But we also thought maybe Don Amici and Marcia Hunt. But the correct answer is D, Lou Parker and Marcia Hunt. Lou Parker and Marcia Hunt did not play the Bickersons. All right, number 8, Tarzan, King of the Jungle. Lots of different versions of Tarzan on the radio starting in the 1930s, but who played Tarzan in the last series of the 1950s? Not sure who might have actually been listening to it. I also think we're being a little judgmental of poor Buster. He may or may not be crabby. Let's not judge his mood. So poor Buster. I'm feeling for him right now. But we were kind of split between Lamont Johnson, Buster Crabbe, and Jeff Chandler, and still Ronnie Light got a vote. But the correct answer is A, Lamont Johnson. A. We have a lot of homework, class. A lot of homework. Number 9. Julius LaRosa was a victim of Arthur Godfrey's temper, but he also fired which of his popular female vocalists? We were split between Carmel, Quinn, Jeanette Davis, and I've got a few votes for Marion Marlowe. Nobody voted for the Hawaiian name that clearly Hal butchered. Well, I'm somewhat surprised because C is the correct answer. Haleloke Kahaulupue. Did you know that the Hawaiian language only has 19 letters? Fun fact, that's why words are very long, because they do not have as many letters as the English alphabet. There you go. Mahalo. Number 10. Which of these musicians was a leap year baby? I hope we all remember what leap year is coming up. We still didn't study it. But which of these musicians is a leap year baby? We didn't study. We're all over the place. But the correct answer is D. Jimmy Dorsey. D. Jimmy Dorsey. Class. I'm going to have to use the D word. I'm disappointed. I expect us to all review the study guide better. And in March, we will have better results in our quiz.
Will this be on the final exam, teacher?
It certainly will.
Thank you.
Certainly will. Cumulative.
Thank you very much, Miss Stevens.
Of course,
That
it
was-
would be helpful if Miss Stevens would explain to us why we have a leap day or a leap year.
It says
Because
quarter. Go
of the
ahead.
number of hours that it takes to revolve around the sun, and the fact that our 24-hour a day we don't actually have 24 hours in a day. It's like a fraction. And so in order to accommodate that, we added an extra day. I think we can thank Ben Franklin or something for it. There's some
What I heard
nonsense.
was that it takes 365 and a
quarter.
quarter days to go around the sun to be in
Yes.
the exact
Right.
same spot. Well, our calendar does not handle a quarter day very easily.
I think we should
So
just change our
they
calendar.
decided to take every 4 quarters, 1 quarter for every 4th year, and make a whole day, and they stuck it in. And how many people say February instead of February? To me, the most important question is why the hell they stuck an R in February.
Yes. And
That's
Sally
well
was right.
observed, Wayne.
Our
That was
day
well
is only
observed.
23 hours and 56 minutes long,
Thank you.
but Wayne's answer is correct that the Earth goes around the sun every 365 and a quarter days.
I
So
still
they
win.
capture that day. It's like a true up check.
Thank you, John.
Or payment. Yeah.
I promise to
The
go
next
back on.
question
mute.
is, who can explain daylight savings time? Let's not even start that.
Oh, we'll be here.
Now we
all
can start blaming
Thanks,
Ben
Miss
Franklin.
Stevens. I'm going to have to mute you if you keep coming up with stuff like that. Let's see, people are weighing in on chat. George has observed there are calendars that add an extra day every 400 years. Thank you, George. I'm glad I don't have that calendar. It would be hard to track. But anyway, I admire the youth of people who are born on leap year on February 29th. I think that is they only have a birthday every 4 years, which was one of a key point in one of the Gilbert and Sullivan operettas. So I won't put people on the spot and ask them to mention the title.
The Pirates of Penzance. The Pirates of Penzance. Yes.
Yes, I think they refer to the February being such a miserable month, and they add an extra day. Anyway,
My question is, who outside the solar system was observing all of this to notice when the Earth got around the exact same spot?
yes, leap year's been around longer than space travel for sure. Well, this is wonderful. This has been, at least in my opinion, a really delightful program. I want to thank Larry again for sharing some of your expertise, and the book, I think you said, is available on Amazon. I believe.
Yes, yes.
So guys, go to Amazon and get a book. You can use it, to lift weights or what have you, while you're reading. So you're getting exercise, you're getting strength training as well as knowledge training. So thank you, Larry, and thank you, Frank, Fred, for working on the program with Larry, and also for your first 15. So with that, I will wish everyone an early happy Valentine's Day. And I will stop recording, and we will go on to the business meeting section of the evening.
Oh, before you stop recording, I better
Yeah.
correct myself. The Hawaiian language actually only has 13 letters. I thought I said too many.
I
double
thank you.
checked.
Lucky 13. That's great. Next time we expect a flowing rendition of the name where it trips happily off your tongue, Miss
Yes.
Stevens.
Once I hear the entire class pronounce it properly, I will be happy to do so.
Oh no, we have to follow the teacher. The teacher is the leader. On that, we will stop recording.